Hey, what's up, everybody? It's basically Black Jesus here. I want to have a conversation with you guys about something that I noticed. And I think it's really important for us to kind of talk about this. Okay. It's about having a logical mindset. Okay. And also having a good critical way of thinking. And I'm having a lot of conversations online with women and with men, but the problem I'm running into is primarily with the women. And when I have these conversations with women, they don't make sense and they don't realize they don't make sense. They're able to verbalize what their feelings are, but when you kind of compare these things against reality or even things that they've said earlier in a conversation, it is become apparent to me they don't realize that what they're saying doesn't add up to anything that is logical. And I think that's maybe intentional, man. I think that, to a degree, some of us are being taught to think illogically, right? So a logical mindset is about being able to put your ideas in order around a concept in a way that shows like reasonable continuity. Being able to do this revolves around a reasonable assessment of the important and relevant components of a concept, and then being able to order those concepts to build an idea structure that can be understood for explanation, where you can explain to somebody, or you can actually use it. A critical mindset, which is different than having a logical mind, is a barrier to entry for new ideas. So it's a skill you practice where ideas can be evaluated as being reasonable or logical before you grant them a position of belief or you accept them and give them any type of truth value in your mind. So being able to critically think allows you to consider new information and assess whether or not that information is even logical or reasonable and should be used as a basis for like your future choices or intelligent enough for some application in the future, right? So having these two components is the basis of having a rational mind and being capable of rational thought. Okay, so I'm convinced that people are intentionally being taught to not think rationally in an attempt to create a more controllable populace, right? This is important to create better consumers and less free people because the basis of being a free people is being able to think freely. And if your thoughts are all bullshit, then that's not really being free, right? The basis of freedom is not access to opportunity. It's not just that. Okay. It is a mindset that allows you to accept or reject ideas, no matter how popular they might be, right? So that you can develop your own, determine where you want to go with your life instead of, being kind of choked into ideas where you're being controlled, right? Which is the right to determine your own direction and path through life and with respect to whatever social construct you live in, right? You're able to kind of look at the options and make your own choices about how you want to be. The most afflicted with irrational mindsets right now, in my opinion, are American women. Now, ladies, listen. I'm not trying to bash you, all right? But women have a unique relationship with reality, as many of their outcomes in life are tempered by the fact that men see them as the weaker sex. Okay. I know you don't like hearing that, but I'm sure you guys say toxic masculinity, misogyny, patriarchy. So you say these things because you believe that guys don't see you as equals, right? So men as a group do see women as the equal, the weaker sex. Thereby, most of the time, women are not giving an equal share of consequence to men who make the same types of errors in life. Because reality is not as cruel a teacher or as harsh a taskmaster to women as it is with men. Women are hidden from the reality of their failures for much longer, and than men are, and because of that, their problems gain more weight and inertia before hitting their lives. Because of this fact, the impact of a woman's life is greater, the negative impact to a woman's life is greater. And so to all the people are around her and caught in the blast radius of the impact of her bad decisions, her kids, whatever man she married, right? So our society grants them victim status. Women are automatically victims, especially when juxtaposed to a problem or conflict they have with men, right? That's the way society sees women. Guys can see it. We all know it. Women are automatically assumed to be the victim and the guy the villain, right? Even if they are victims of their own bad choices. we as a society have developed these different modalities where we remove the responsibility of their bad choices and put them onto larger concepts, based off of male domination in society, like patriarchy, misogyny, toxic masculinity, grape culture, fat shaming, slut shaming, etc. When really these are just people who are showing low level of accountability, low level of self-control, bad decision making. And the truth of these concepts are just the natural consequence of irrational behavior, right? The outcomes you're experiencing are not because of these concepts, it's because you're making stupid ass choices. And society is kind of allowing you, the media is kind of allowing you, the dominant narratives in our culture and in our greater society are allowing you to offload the outcomes from bad decision making onto these concepts instead of say, hey, it was done for me to do that, and I need to be a better thinker and make better choices for myself. So people are taught to think irrationally now to make them feel, to make them easier to control. And women are more afflicted by this than men because women are historically seen as victims. And now that we live in a gynocracy, America is definitely a gynocracy, right? We have a society that does not protect its own long-term interests, and the people in that society are too busy intellectualizing irrational arguments because they are not taught how to disqualify bad thinking and irrational ideas. They are irrational, they are illogical, and the majority of people now lack the ability to critically evaluate new information to determine whether or not it's an idea that actually makes sense. The only barrier to entry for most people's thinking and accepted ideas nowadays is tribalism. The person who told it to me, do they look like me? Do I self identify as part of the same group that they are in? That's what people are more concerned with, rather than the truth value of the statement and whether or not we can see it reflected in reality in general, right? Or can we think of individual instances where this has happened, the marginal, anecdotal, minute scenario, or are we looking at, hey, what's happening on a grand scale to most people most of the time, right? And I think this is something that's really being lost, and women right now are heavily afflicted by this. And I believe that unless we take a look at the fact, not instead of having these micro arguments with them about all of these issues, we need to establish a standard of just being rational, logical, and having a critical barrier by which you evaluate new ideas. And if you don't have those basic tools, if you are not a rational person, if you do not think logically with some type of logical continuity, and you don't have the ability to critically think about new ideas, then us discussing baby mama drama and male and mating and dating and all of that stuff is irrelevant, because the coin of the realm, that the thing that has value to me in this conversation is whether or not it makes sense. And if making sense isn't part of how you arrive at ideas, then it's impossible to have a meaningful conversation with you about what makes sense. Do you get what I'm saying? So, fellas, and ladies who are rational, logical thinkers, right? Not just people who say that, but people who actually will change their opinions in light of new data, look for data and information pertaining to the issues that they want to discuss. People who are logical, rational thinkers, when you find yourself in a conversation or argument with somebody where the litmus test for their thinking is not logic, reason, rationale, data, statistics, evidence, hypothesis, any type of modality that even tries to institute any level of logical continuity in thought, I say you can't talk to these people. These are folks who are sheep, and they have been made to be taught, not to learn. And being taught is meaning that you accept what you have been told. And learning means that you yourself have looked at the information and then made your own premises, conjectures, and evaluations of the information for you to come to the point that you are now espousing, whatever that idea might be, right? And people can learn things that are wrong, but I would rather deal with somebody who learned something that was wrong than somebody who has accepted something they've been taught that's bullshit, right? So you have to, we're going to have to start differentiating between these two different thinking people. And, you know, if you are somebody who's taught and you don't have a desire to become a person who has learned, then you and I really don't have anything to talk about. My Shifu, Misan, shout out to the OG Misan, said this to me, and it really, really resonated with me. He said, if good sense don't make sense, we can't be friends. So I subscribe to that, and I hope you guys think a little bit about it.